Joining me now from Karachi is Jibran Nasir. He's a human rights activist and running for office in the upcoming National Assembly elections. And in Islamabad, Mati-ullah Jan. He's a journalist and host of a current affairs program. And in Islamabad is security analyst Tariq Pirzada. Gentlemen, welcome to all of you for joining us here on the Newsmakers. Tariq Pirzada, let's start with you. Does the Pakistani army feel that there's a differentiation between participating in anti-state activities and voicing dissent?
You know, there's too much of a propaganda warfare that is going on social media, and I strongly disagree with the premise. As a matter of fact, there are three major institutions in the country that are ensuring and guaranteeing freedom of expression and the holding of a third consecutive election in Pakistan. Number one, the judiciary of Pakistan. Number two, the Election Commission of Pakistan. And number three, the armed forces of Pakistan, who are standing behind the democratic process with all their security apparatus, making sure that nothing goes wrong on the day of the polling. And because the security can only be provided by the armed forces for the reason that the police system in our country is so flawed, the training is so bad, and the discipline is so pitiable that every single local election has to be done under the supervision of security troops and security forces. So the basic premise that somebody is trying to obstruct the freedom of expression in this country is so bizarre. Totally. Pakistan is so ideally situated in terms of freedom of expression that, for example, we have people participating in this program who speak against army every day on different Pakistani shows, and nobody says anything to them. So when it comes to the armed forces of Pakistan, they have made a fundamental decision that this freedom of expression and democratic process will have to be supported.
Mati-ullah, Tariq Pirzada said that the army was one of the institutions that upheld the democratic process. Yet last week, your picture was posted by the Pakistani military, and they labeled you as spreading anti-state propaganda. Are you trying to bring down the state?
Not at all. How dare I can do this? I think those who are trying to bring down the state are very much visible, and they are very much free to do it. Unfortunately, those who are part of the state are doing it, not the journalists. I was surprised to listen to this gentleman, Mr. Tariq Pirzada. I thought he is speaking from Washington. He's not living in Pakistan. I don't blame any institutions for the lack of press freedom.
I've been in many shows with you, Mati-ullah Jan, and that's why I said you're the one who speaks against the army, and nobody has put you in the jail.
Have some tolerance. So this is the state of tolerance and patience.
No, you're very much.
Even for those who represent, even for those who defend the army, you can look at the tolerance and patience of the gentleman who is defending the army, let alone the army and institutions.
I'm defending Pakistan.
Mr. Pirzada, let me speak. I heard you very patiently. You're not talking. Mr. Pirzada, let me hear. Have some patience.
Please go ahead.
Have some decency to listen to the other point of view.
Please
is this the kind of freedom of expression you're defending? What kind of freedom of expression you're talking about when even a person like you cannot tolerate opinions?
Well, look, it
Don't
is a part
interrupt,
of my
please.
democratic
Let me complete my opinion. Listen to my opinion.
Making false statements.
It is your democratic right, but let me have my democratic right first, Mr. Pirzada. Have some patience and do not spoil this discussion.
Gentlemen, if we could actually just bring in Jibran. This is actually a voice who could actually give in some perspective here. Mati-ullah, just a second here. Jibran Nasir, you're standing as a candidate in the upcoming elections. What do you make of all this? Is the Pakistani army trying to control the outcome of this election?
First of all, let us look at where the Pakistan army is an ordinary army. I don't think it's an ordinary army. I don't think it operates like most armies do. The Pakistani army runs a bank. It produces fertilizers. It manufactures cereals. It operates oil and other industry. It even operates a cellular network. It is very deeply involved in commercial activities, which armies around the world are not. Then again, the army is part of the executive. But we see the army stepping out of that and publicly condemning and rejecting notifications given by the executive, which means by its seniors, be it the cabinet or the prime minister. And furthermore, when we go about, the army is also choosing sides.
Garbage.
The army is also choosing sides.
This is an absolute garbage. Mr. Nasir, you are falsifying the facts on the ground.
I would respect the host. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the name. To please maintain some decorum. I believe if we are all here to present a positive image of Pakistan, that image would be best represented by us tolerating each other. Now, when we talk about the army being so deeply involved in public domain, in public dealings, then of course it invites public commentary. Now, when the army invites public commentary because its role is so evolving,
if we can actually ask you to just hold on just 1 minute, let's actually get our guests to actually get across their points.
Is the army behind the holding of this election or not?
Mr. Pirzada, we're going to come to you in a second. Mr. Nasir, if you could just continue.
Yes. So when army's role in the public domain, in the political domain is so evolving, is so ever-changing, it's very hard to draw the line. We often talk about the restrictions in our laws and in our constitution on what we can and cannot say about the armed forces. But because the army's role is so evolving and ever-changing,
because
the lines become murky and blurry. And furthermore,
let me interrupt. I have to interrupt.
I'm failing to understand who's conducting this show.
The Article 62 says that you cannot.
I believe the host was conducting this show.
You will have your moment in just a second. Let's just have Mr. Nasir finish up his point, sir.
Against judiciary and against the armed forces of Pakistan. You cannot do mudslinging, but you can criticize them.
Mr. Pirzada, let me ask you then, does the Pakistani army have a preference in the outcome of this election?
Okay, here is the answer.
To me?
If there was any ulterior motive, we would not be holding, or we would not have been entering into the third consecutive democratic election in the last 10 years. So that's number one. Number two, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces has said it very clearly dozens of times that Pakistan, the future of Pakistan lies with democracy. If they were not in favor of democracy, I think the kind of violations of constitutions that have been perpetrated by the politicians, these corrupt politicians like Nawaz Sharif, I think, you know what would have happened? The army would have taken it over long time ago, as it did in the past. So the proof that the army is staying away, that the proof a third election is happening, and the proof that people of Pakistan are enjoying total freedom of expression, as Mr. Jibran Nasir and Mr. Mati-ullah Jan are enjoying on your show, and in Pakistani press, they enjoy the same freedom because they speak against the army. They have spoken.
We are not enjoying freedom of expression. We are enjoying you.
That's exactly, Mr. Tariq Pirzada. I would like to bring in our other two guests. Let them speak, and we'll actually come back to you. Mati-ullah Jan, what do you think the intentions were of the Pakistani army when they labeled you as such last week?
Yeah, I think the intentions were very much clear, and especially when these have not yet been clarified as well. It was a very simple thing to do, just to issue a clarification that the slides shown were not intended to show journalists in bad light or show them as anti-state elements, but no clarification was made.
Mati-ullah Jan,
so
you're not just a journalist.
Mr. Pirzada, you will get your time. Just please allow our guests to speak.
Mr. Pirzada, please let me have my freedom of expression, because people like you have a lot of faith in Pakistan. What I'm saying is that ahead of elections, these kind of pressures are being built on media to silence their voice, and to silence not only just
who can silence your voice? You're too loud a person,
but also the media across the country. Mr. Pirzada, please don't make noise. Make some sensible arguments, please. What I'm saying is this: elections are very crucial.
Who has been able to silence you?
Before the elections, all
you
the
appeared with me on television.
Media.
You are appearing with me today in this show. You are speaking against the army, and nobody is stopping you.
Mr. Pirzada, nobody is speaking against army. When army has the friends like you, they don't need enemies.
You are. I have to say that.
So let
you
me.
are
They don't need enemies.
I think you were expelled from the army also.
Mr. Pirzada, I am son of an army officer.
That you speak against army.
I am son of an army officer. Who was your father?
I think somebody was expelled from army.
Gentlemen,
I am son of an army officer.
Let's not
I am son of
digress
an army
from,
officer.
from
Who was
the
your
discussion.
father? Was he in army? So I love army more than you, Mr. Pirzada, if that's what your standards are.
I think that's an incorrect statement.
So stop interfering now.
I've heard you myself.
At least have some respect now. What I'm saying is all these institutions, including the Supreme Court, and including the National Accountability Bureau, and including, of course, the military spokesman
rather than discussing who loves the Pakistani army more, let's get back and concentrate on the discussion at hand. Jibran Nasir, when you look at Pakistan's, the army's role in politics, it's played for decades. Why doesn't it just come out and be more open with its intentions?
I think it already has come out and has been very open with its intention. We also need to realize that we're living in the comity of nation, where things on paper need to be a certain bit in order, whether they may not reflect that in reality. On paper, we are a modern democratic state, but in reality, we are moving more and more towards a dictatorship. When you talk about enjoying freedom of expression means that you as a citizen can share your opinion, can voice your dissent within the ambit of the law without your credibility, your integrity, and your patriotism being questioned. When you have the highest office of the army spokesperson labeling journalists or anybody else being labeled, then it means that it is not a right. Freedom of expression is a privilege here, only given to those who are willing to voice a certain kind of opinion. Now, moving further, the result is what we have here today, what we are suffering from is deeply militarized politics. And that's been facilitated by the democratic forces of Pakistan as well. Because whenever certain parties are in opposition,
Mr. Pirzada, I'm going to come to you, but please let's let Mr. Nasir finish up his point.
If I may take out a point, I may say one thing right now. This show, whenever it will air, it's very troubling for me because Pakistan has, even whether it's a conservative side, it's a liberal side, it's a pro-state side, or somebody who are dissenting against state institutions, we have a variety of very civilized, tolerant commentators and analysts. This kind of a circus does disservice to my nation of 22 million people in front of an international audience when the audience believe that Pakistanis cannot have a discussion amongst themselves.
You represent some foreign element. Jibran Nasir, I know you. You don't represent this country at all.
Mr. Pirzada, let me ask my question to you then. When you look at the recent developments, one of the country's most prestigious or oldest English language newspapers, The Dawn, as well as the most prestigious television stations, why are they under so much pressure then? Mr. Pirzada?
All right, let me answer that question.
Pirzada, who is he?
Yes.
He creates a lot of noise today.
Yes. All right, Mati-ullah Jan, you are a fine journalist, but let me talk. Here is the answer. This newspaper, Dawn, has actually an establishment which is absolutely anti-Pakistan when it comes to protecting the national security interest of Pakistan.
So you say it's anti-Pakistan, but it was actually formed by the founder of your country. How can it be anti-Pakistan when it was formed by the founder of your country?
But he died. And this has
According
been transferred
to Mr.
into the head of
Jinnah was
those
also anti-Pakistan.
Anti-state.
According to Mr. Pirzada, Jinnah was also anti-Pakistan.
May I answer? Very briefly, I'll give you all the time. Dawn and Geo and Jung, when you appear on Indian television, as I do more frequently than any of the participants over here, I tell you one thing, they refer with a lot of confidence to two newspapers and televisions whom they believe they can trust. And both of them are Dawn and Geo, because both of these televisions represent the point of view of Mr. Modi and a point of view of Washington, and the point of view that is anti-army, anti-judiciary, democratic setup in Pakistan.
Mr. Pirzada, I'm going to actually ask our two remaining guests to actually get their talk on it. Mr. Mati-ullah Jan, let me ask you. You look at Gul Bukhari, who was abducted by masked men. Another journalist, Asad Kural, who was physically assaulted and then hospitalized. And then what you've seen with you happened last week in the Pakistan military's presentation, being labeled as a supporter of anti-state activities prior to the elections. What effect do you think this will have on the electorate?
It will actually create an environment of fear and sense of insecurity not only for media and journalists, and particularly for those whose pictures were shown on the slide, but also for the society as a whole.
And this is an incorrect statement.
For the politicians.
Media is so free. Journalists
For the
are enjoying
politicians,
total
and
freedom.
during this
and there is no restriction,
the
no
DGISPR
silencing
had
of voice.
also warned that they will tolerate anything against them, but not against the state. And I don't think DGISPR or military
what's wrong
spokesmen
with
had
that?
this authority
No
to
country
give a
tolerates
warning.
anything against
It
the
is the
state.
federal
Mr.
government,
Pirzada, if I could just show a little bit of respect, I should get our guests'
He
comments in.
violated one law,
Please, sir.
and he was taken off
Please,
the
sir.
I think
seat.
Mr. Pirzada
Look what happened to General
sounds more like
Petraeus in the United States.
I think Mr. Pirzada sounds more like a Sobedar major in army than an analyst, because he is just making noise and making no
that
sense.
shows your background.
So I think
that shows your respect for the
that is
armed
what I'm
forces.
saying. So that's
you guys
why
are
please do
living
not
for
interfere.
free because
Let me
the forces
complete.
are dying
Let me
on the
complete.
border.
Don't
Mr.
create
Pirzada,
the
noises.
forces are dying
He
on
has
the
asked me a
border.
question,
You
Mr.
guys
Pirzada.
tolerate
He has
for
asked me a
forces
question.
because
Please,
forces are dying on the
please
border.
give a
Please.
chance to our guests. Yes,
Mr.
Mr. Jan.
Pirzada, please. I'm requesting you, please show some patience, please. What I'm saying is that this is going to create a very vicious environment just before the election that will tarnish the credibility of the whole electoral process in Pakistan. This environment of insecurity and pressures on media, censorship, that is so blatant that TV channels are shut down in cantonment areas, newspaper distribution is blocked, journalists are being threatened and attacked and kidnapped. And as far as Gul Bukhari is concerned, the military spokesman has denied the involvement of the army in this, but this denial is no different from the denials in previous similar cases.
All right,
So,
Mr. Jan.
and there are so many Judicial Commission reports also, which have not been made public by any government.
I'm going to give the last say to Jibran Nasir. As a candidate in these upcoming elections, Mr. Jan talked about an atmosphere of fear, an atmosphere of insecurity. How is the country going to get over this and look forward to an election that's going to bring Pakistan forward?
When you talk about an election and a good election, we refer to a free and fair election. And for a free and fair election, you need accountability, transparency, and most importantly, free flow of information. When you are suppressing voices, when you are censoring voices, be it a newspaper or a channel or an article or a journalist, you are creating discrimination and you are, again, going towards a closed society, which is, again, I said, another indicator of militarized politics. We need free flow of information. You penalize defamation. You penalize sedition. When you suppress something, the benefit or the doubt given is that you're suppressing the truth, because that's what you're scared of, because that's what will bring the change. I believe that when we again and again say that army will ensure the election, when we again and again say that army will ensure security, when we again and again say that democracy stands because the army wants it so, we're already conceding it that the army has a say in it. Under the Constitution, the army is subservient to the executive branch, which is the current government, be it the interim government or the permanent government. The army should not supposed to have a say in it. It's supposed to follow orders which are supposed to be given. So with this very statement which Mr. Pirzada has been promoting over here, he's already conceding that the things that this whole country is being run as a puppet, and the puppeteer, that the strings are in the hands of someone else.
All right, Jibran Nasir, Mati-ullah Jan, and Tariq Pirzada, thank you very much for this heated debate. And we do have to remind our viewers that we had to cut Mr. Pirzada's microphone because he wasn't giving an opportunity for our other guests to talk. Thank you very much to all of you for this heated discussion.